Hi, I'm Claire, and I am a survivor of sexual violence. Today, I have something to say about treatment plans and healing from trauma. And part of my recovery plan is this dog right here, and she's not looking at the camera because she's feeling shy. But let's see if we can get her. Reagle, look over here, baby. Oh, strike a pose, the profile. Oh, yeah, baby. She loves attention. Okay, that was fun. Now I want to get into the video. Just a reminder that I do talk about sensitive topics, so there may be a trigger in any of my videos, so just remember to proceed with caution and to be mindful of what your mind and body is telling you. I want to talk about therapy and why it is so difficult to seek help. I have gone to individual therapy basically my entire life, but that doesn't mean that it was easy for me to seek help in different times of my life. Most recently, when I had to go to intensive outpatient treatment, which I'll explain that in a little bit, um, it was hard, and I did not want to admit that I had that serious of problems, and I didn't want to be vulnerable with a stranger because I was basically just done with everyone, including professionals. Um, and I didn't feel like they were worthy of hearing what I had to say. I was like, no one understands what I'm going through. That is not going to make me feel better, and they're like, I don't want anyone's pity. Um, so that's one thing that I think keeps people from seeking help. Another thing for me and for others is pride. Um, I don't want to admit that I'm sick, okay? It's a scary thing to admit, and it also makes you reflect on your own behavior and your own thoughts, and that's not always comfortable for everyone. Um, so I would encourage you to challenge those thoughts that you don't need to go or you're fine without it, whatever, because what my mindset has been is, yeah, I'm probably fine without it, but why do I want to be mediocre when I could just be the best version of myself? That sounds so cheesy, but seriously, like, it's your life. I mean, it's your choice, but for me, it's like, why would I choose to be less happy? Another thing that I think stops people from seeking help is financial restraints. And I completely understand that. When I unenrolled from school because I had to take some time to heal, I didn't have health insurance. So now I was not in school, so I couldn't use their resources, and I didn't have insurance, and therapy can be really expensive, especially if you're going to someone that has a good reputation and has been doing it for a long time. Um, so I went to a women's shelter, and they provided free counseling, and it isn't as, I don't want to say it's not as good, but I just want to say that there's less flexibility to choose what person you're compatible with when you don't have insurance. And I think that that is something that is a huge problem that needs to be addressed on a bigger scale. But with my experience, when I have had insurance, I have been able to really show up for myself in therapy and say, nice to meet you, but we don't really mesh, and I don't think that we have the aligning values and aligning goals for what my treatment looks like and what your services look like. So if you go to psychology.com, you can type in your zip code or whatever area, or you can type in like trauma therapist or grief therapist, whatever you're looking for, and you can read people's bios and you can vet them. And I think that that is a really, really important thing. It's like rate my professor, but way more important, because if you're gonna reveal your soul to this person, then you need to know a little bit about where they came from and what they have to offer. And I don't think that that's selfish or rude, because you're just showing up for yourself and making sure that the time you're taking out of your daily life to work on yourself is worthwhile and something that is going to impact you for the better. Another form of affordable/free therapy is group therapy. A lot of churches have like grief or trauma or violence or whatever kind of centered groups at night that are free. And a lot of times they're not affiliated with the religion of whatever religious center it might be at. So I would really get on Google and look for what you're looking for in your area, because there are affordable resources. And I just think that giving up because you don't have the financial resources is not always the answer. I understand that with financial instability also comes with time restraints, because I know that, I mean, I've been there. You don't have time because you have to work. I get that. But what I found is like cutting back time in other areas, even if it's just like an hour a week to focus on my own progression, makes me perform better in those other areas of my life. So getting into therapy that you do have to pay for, unfortunately, and hopefully a lot of health insurance providers are pretty good about covering mental health care. You just really have to fight for it, and a lot of people don't know that you can appeal insurance decisions. That doesn't mean that it's a guarantee, but I mean, if you contact them and say, this is a serious medical procedure that I need to go through, then I think that depending on your insurance company and if you get a real person on the phone, they'll be willing to work with you. So obviously, individual therapy is probably the most common form of therapy. I definitely recommend it. I have a therapist that I love, and I go to her at her house, and it is a really, really wonderful relationship that we have that I hold very dear to my heart. In addition to individual therapy, I also completed an ILP program. So ILP is intensive outpatient. Typically, it's a few hours a day, and my program was 6 weeks. It varies. Some people stayed for longer and some people stayed for shorter time, depending on what they needed. I remember when I went in, I was scared that I wasn't sick enough to pass the intake process. So then I was like, what am I going to do if I don't get in to a mental health program? I'm going to be screwed. And that just shows you how sick I was, because who worries about the admission of a mental health program? You know, normally you don't want to get admitted. So that was just night and day, like me going in with that mindset and then me coming out just feeling so much more confident and so much more comfortable in my own skin. So my model was filling out a mood, food, sleep log every day, which is how much did you eat, how much did you sleep, and what was your mood. At first, I found it really annoying and tedious, but after time, I realized that it was actually really helpful to keep myself accountable in that way. And then in turn, I saw my mood progressing over time. Then it was a group setting, so we would share our feelings and our experiences, which I know is not fun to everyone, but it was really helpful. Not only is it healing, but it's also really good character development, because you break those boundaries and you break that vulnerability that is really not comfortable. I mean, it's in no one's nature to just share their darkest secrets in a room full of strangers. That's not normal, but it's very helpful. And it was just so constructive. And I think that admitting myself was probably the best thing that I ever did for myself. Additionally, it's really nice because in an ILP program, you can still have a part-time job if you need to, because it's only a few hours a day. And then in addition to that, it's pretty much always covered by insurance. I don't want to say always, but they're definitely willing to work with you as long as you get your mental health provider involved and have that dialogue between the two resources. Switching gears, I want to quickly talk about medicine. When my psychiatrist suggested that I need to start taking an SSRI, which is anti-anxiety, antidepressant, and a PTSD medication, I was insulted, and I was not having it because I thought that I was far too strong to need to rely on chemicals to rearrange my thoughts and my actions. So I was not having it, and I also have a history of addiction in my family, and so I expressed to him that I didn't think that medicine was a good route for me. And basically his response was, Claire, if you had diabetes, you would take your insulin. And honestly, that was enough for me. I was like, okay, doc, you're right. I'm wrong. I'm not a professional. Like, but let's have a conversation about this. I was like, I don't want anything with these side effects. I don't want anything that's addictive. And I need to know exactly how this is going to affect me. And I think it's okay to ask those questions because you need to be informed about what you're putting in your body and you need to make sure that it's in your comfort zone. There's definitely some things that he suggested that I said no to, and he was okay with that. And it needs to be a mutual relationship when you're developing a medication plan. Medicine is so specific that I really don't want to get into it too much. But I will say this, there's no shame in taking medicine for whatever you're dealing with. And it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It just means that you are taking care of yourself the way that you need to at that time. It doesn't mean that it's going to be forever. A lot of these medications are not supposed to be prescribed forever. But it's okay to give yourself a little help as long as it's monitored by a doctor and as long as it's safe. Another thing, like I mentioned in the beginning of my video, that I did as a coping mechanism / treatment was get my dog Reagle, and she has literally been the biggest lifesaver ever. I'm not kidding. I think she literally saved my life. And I was never a huge animal person. Hopefully that doesn't sound heartless, but she has completely converted me. I got her because I had to move out of my original living situation because of a safety issue regarding my second assault. So I got her kind of partially as a safety measure, but also partially as an emotional companion. And she has served as both so incredibly well. And she's seriously the reason that I don't feel alone. And just when I was in that place where I felt like I was unlovable, in that deepest, darkest place of my recovery, having her by my side was literally the only thing that made me feel loved. And it's an incredible feeling. The power of animals. I never thought that I would experience that. Like I said, I was really not an animal person before, but I have definitely been convinced, and she's so cute. Thank you guys for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And of course, just keep in mind that I am not a medical professional, so talking about these topics are just from my experience, but they're obviously not fact. Next time, I'm going to talk about dealing with trauma and family and friends and how it affects those relationships and how those interactions change or adapt after experiencing that. So I'm really looking forward to it. Please like, subscribe, share, and of course feel free to email me. My email is below, somethingtosay0000 at gmail.com, and I'm looking forward to next week.